Retired engineer Gordon Holmes is one of the few people who claims to have captured the Loch Ness Monster on camera. He's taking us to the exact spot at the water's edge where his life changed forever.
I saw the monster at 10 minutes to 10 on the 26th of May 2007. During the morning, I'd been doing hydrophonic research on the loch. At the evening, I decided to go up to the lay-by, which had a good commanding view of the loch, about 70 foot above the surface. This was my fourth visit up to the loch, and I hadn't actually got anything concrete, evidence of something mysterious.
Despite years spent waiting, Gordon remained determined to see the Loch Ness Monster. And on this day, his persistence finally paid off.
I'd been there for a few hours, and then suddenly I saw something coming towards me. I immediately reached over the back seat and grabbed my camcorder. I dashed out, slammed the door, and then suddenly I realised that's not what you're supposed to do. I've read that if you see a potential monster, don't slam the door, because that'll frighten it. So I then ran down to the edge of the lay-by and realised it's disappeared. Where's it gone? And then suddenly I saw it over to the right, and immediately I got the camcorder and zoomed into its position. For the next 2.5 minutes, I was privileged to one of the most amazing sights I've ever seen.
As you can see from Gordon's footage, there is most definitely some type of large animal swimming across the loch. But what could it be?
This thing was like bubbling along the waves. At no point did it break through the surface of the streamlined water flow.
The creature appears to be moving in a serpentine fashion, almost slithering through the water. Based on the species known to inhabit Loch Ness, one might conclude that this is an eel. But when you analyze the video more carefully, the eel theory seems unlikely.
I read somewhere that if you ever get a sighting of something like this, you should zoom in and out so that the people that analyse the footage can always then estimate the size of whatever the creature was, and at the same time you can prove it's not like a fake because you're seeing it in context.
In context, the animal appears to be at least 15 feet long, much larger than any freshwater eel species, and therefore potentially something completely unknown.
It was certainly going at speed into the waves. It wasn't some sort of log. This was a creature that had energy, it had power, it was thrusting through the waves.
In addition to the creature's length, experts were able to determine that it was moving at a top speed of 6 miles per hour.
This is probably the best footage up to this time of the so-called Loch Ness Monster. I realised this was a turning point in the history of the Loch Ness Monster.
On the northern end of Loch Ness, Captain Mike Lynch has spotted an anomaly on his sonar, a dark form near several shoals of fish that very well might be a sign of the elusive monster. Whatever it is, the anomaly is on the move. So the captain has quickly made the call to deploy the dive team before it can escape.
All ready on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go! Good, all right. Slow down, guys. That's it, connected good.
The water is thick with mud and debris. It also filters out more and more sunlight with each foot the divers descend.
They're a bit deeper. They've passed that point where I can't see them anymore. They're pretty deep now. It's pretty dark and murky down there.
The divers have reached the upper level of the rock shelf that the rebels' equipment spotted from above. The shoals of fish that initially drew attention to the area have scattered. Perhaps scared away, but by what? Tom is now searching for anything that could have created the massive unknown object on the sonar.
What we're looking for, the signal to the surface, is an SMB, a surface marker buoy. That's going to let us know if they've made contact.
The divers have encountered something massive. As you can see, a large animal with a vertical tail fin passed directly in front of the camera, knocking it aside and kicking up a large cloud of sand and debris. As the cloud subsides, the creature has disappeared into the darkness. Tom and Ken would prefer to continue their investigation, but over 150 feet down, and with their oxygen tanks running low, they must return to the surface. Tom prepares to send up the surface marker buoy to let Chris know the location of their contact.
That's the SMB up.
The divers slowly and carefully make their ascent.
So divers have definitely seen something, they've definitely made some sort of contact. It's just hard to tell what it is right now. And that's them coming up. They're almost at the surface. So what did you guys see?
There was something massive in there. Kicked up a lot of silt. Time we get back to it, it moved far too quick. Moved fast into the water.
There's a chance we've identified something new tonight. We may have even seen it. No matter what, we've certainly added to the rich history of this legendary creature. From St. Columba in the year 565, to Alex Campbell in 1933, to Gordon Holmes in 2007, to us here today, one thing is clear. Something is out there. There's only one way to find out what the Loch Ness Monster truly is, and that's to keep looking. The search continues. Despite thousands of sightings and near constant speculation about the Loch Ness Monster, there's still very little agreement about its features or where it might be found. It's a problem that's been frustrating Nessie hunters for decades.
We're not spending all this time and money trying to prove that there's a large unidentified species in Loch Ness. We know that. We've seen it, and we know it's here. What we are trying to do now is identify the species.
Today, a brand new profile is emerging, which, once complete, could help us finally find the beast. But while most researchers have focused their efforts within the Scottish Highlands, they're ignoring a key data source: because as it turns out, this unknown species might have a long-lost twin outside the loch. In the 17th century, a similar creature began appearing here in northern Sweden's Storsjön Lake. The Swedes call it the Great Lake Monster. In the eastern town of Östersund, archaeologist Anders Hansson has been studying the Great Lake Monster for years and believes there is a definite link to Loch Ness.
We know that people have always been seeing strange things in big waters, and this is part of the Western and Norwegian tradition, and even up to Scotland, that we have these sea serpents.
There have been rumors of an unknown underwater species in Storsjön as far back as the 11th century, not long after rumors of Nessie began. One early description was even recorded on a Viking relic called the Frozø runestone that has stood in Östersund since 1050.
And as you can see, it's got this great serpent, this dragon on it. And this is what is said to be the first picture and story about the Great Lake Monster.
A similar timeline isn't the only thing these two creatures share. Both Loch Ness and Storsjön are cold freshwater lakes, and both feed directly into the same common body of water, the North Sea. In other words, a migratory aquatic species could swim between both lakes. Physical accounts of the Swedish monster also line up with alleged Nessie sightings.
People out fishing, seeing something in the lake. Sometimes it's 3 meters, sometimes it's 15 meters long.
Almost all the witnesses describe the monster with a long sea serpent-like body and the head of a dog or a horse.
Some of them are quite dramatic, talking about the speed of the monster and how the mouth of it was so big that you could put down, your whole head in the mouth of the monster.
So what do we have here? Two similar creatures spotted along similar timelines, both in large, cold, northern freshwater lakes. And what's more, these two lakes are directly linked via the North Sea. If the Swedish and Scottish monsters are related, or even the same species, it raises a frightening possibility. Perhaps the Loch Ness Monster isn't trapped in the loch at all. This is the island of Stronsay. Located due north of Inverness, it's a quiet and peaceful place for a seaside getaway. But as zoologist Jeff Swinney will tell us, on a summer day in 1808, visitors were met with a terrifying sight.
A fishing boat noticed something unusual. Their attention was drawn to it by the screaming gulls that had gathered around this carcass, which had been washed onto some rocks. It was big, it was smelly. This was nothing like anything they'd seen before.
The fisherman who had discovered the carcass, a man by the name of John Peace, approached it with a group of locals. The island dwellers were familiar with the occasional beach whale or shark carcass that could wash up on the Stronsay shores. But this was something very different and very, very big.
What they found on the beach was an animal with a relatively small head, only about a foot long, and then a body which extended 55 feet. And they measured this, so we know that the measurement was accurate. And about a quarter of the length of this appeared to be neck, made up of vertebrae, and then the rest of the vertebral column going off tail. There appeared to be 3 pairs of legs. And the whole body was covered in what appeared to be matted fur, with a mane of fur running down the back of the body. This must have been an extraordinary sight. Imagine, this is what they would have seen. It must have been absolutely terrifying, disturbing. This huge 55-foot long, mysterious, six-legged, hairy animal just lying there on the beach. These were not just a new species, this was a new species of megafauna. This was a big animal. This was a sea monster.
It was dubbed the Stronsay Beast, and news of the discovery began to spread.
News spread fairly rapidly worldwide that this sea monster had arrived on the shore. They convened a sort of tribunal with 2 local justices of the peace taking sworn affidavits from the local people who had seen this animal. The remains of the animal that are still in the museum consists of 3 vertebrae. I've had the opportunity of looking at the 3 vertebrae.
After analyzing the remains, Jeff concluded that the Stronsay Beast shared many similarities with our potential profile of the Loch Ness Monster, including a long, narrow shape, flippers on its abdomen, and of course, its massive size. This is the first physical evidence of a possible Loch Ness Monster-type creature in Scotland. Not a blurry photo or a fleeting sighting, but actual remains of a species that must have roamed the area's waters at some point.
There are myths, stories, legends associated with many large bodies of water all over the world. Stories of unknown animals. Loch Ness in particular. It would, of course, be really exciting if we had some material evidence of a new animal, a bit of megafauna, a large animal, a sea monster. And until we have something to actually examine, I keep an open mind.
Could the Stronsay Beast actually be the same species as the creature long identified as the Loch Ness Monster? The resemblance is uncanny, as is the timing. In 1808, the year the Stronsay Beast was discovered, there were alleged sightings of similar creatures in Loch Ness and in Sweden's Storsjön Lake. Is this just a coincidence, or were several of these unknown animals migrating through northern Europe?